World citizens, my LGBTQ family across the world, bros, sisters, and cis bros, gentlemanly ladies, ladies, friendlies, yo, bros. What's happening? Sisters. First and foremost, thanks to my dear sister, friendly teacher, who will loan me this laptop in order to make the video. This blessing of a cup of coffee. So there's welcome to another episode, event of Coffee with Dragon. Yours truly, universal spiritual teacher, LGBTQ world citizen, multidisciplinary artists international. This coffee that I'm drinking is an instant coffee. Exceeds my expectation. It is rather dark. You can see. So grab yourself a cup of coffee and let's discuss current events. First and foremost, want to make a statement and a call for a global financial reset. Paradoxically, as I'm sitting here in my office, I create my art, write my poetry, do this videos, Coffee with Dragon, the social commentary, and where I read, study, and learn and work out. Of course, this is also the headquarters of the World Citizens Gym, where myself and my sister work out, post our workouts, called the General Integrated Workout for anybody to enjoy, to do them. We're down 50 pounds, reached 200 for the first time since we started the initiative of training, working out. And I have to say that I fasted Sunday. Before to go on, I want to also make a call for world peace, global security, and international prosperity. So, that being stated, it seems that, before I proceed, I want to say that I'm calling for a global financial reset. Everybody needs a second and sometimes a third financial chance. Student debt eradication, and my own theories of conversion to convert that debt for them to do, for example, volunteering work. Myself in volunteering for years have actually begun last few weeks ago a new volunteering project. Actually volunteering with children which do love, and it's been a healing therapeutic experience for me personally. And so things like that can be worked out, alternatives, financial alternatives, since here in Canada we've reached debt, a lot of debt, record debt levels per household income. Myself, I'm in a worst financial situation as I'm recording this video here, November 26th. $10,000 in debt, paying interest, which I do not like at all. And looking for employment, financial opportunities. And it pains me just to see that today was another bad news for the working class, for the workers, that the GM, General Motors, that is plant in Canada, and from my understanding several plants in the US are going to close, shut doors. A few thousand employees lost overnight. We're just learning the situation. I'm not gonna go into depth in commentary about it because we're just learning the details, but in a general way it seems that the plant in Oshawa here in the province of Ontario, which is my neighbor, Quebec, seems that the plant is going to be closed. I read an article about it, a little bit of financial dealings about it, but my understanding, they're calling it the corporate level a global restructuring and cutting down the costs to reduce the workforce by about 15% total. 15% of course is 15 out of 100, so it's a lot. Again, that's we're just learning that. The other situation, of course, the ongoing situation is with the Khashoggi journalist and our tensions with somebody. I'm speaking from I'm a world citizen, LGBTQ proud baby, world citizen, but from, of course, Montreal, Hawk Island, Canadian world citizen perspective. That the Canadian relations have been rather good with Saudi Arabia, but now the admission of semi-admission of guilt on behalf of not the prince, but on behalf of some of the members of the services of security services of Saudi Arabia involved in the Khashoggi murder. It's an ongoing diplomatic crisis. Let me know what you think about it. And of course, my understanding is that the Central Intelligence Agency has officially declared that the prince heir, of course by inheritance, not by struggle, pain, and initiation, they concluded, that is, yeah, they concluded that, in fact, from my understanding, that indeed the prince heir, Salman Mohammed something, he has three initial BDS or something like that, BMS, which is known for. We'll see. Myself, I'm not too keen on severing all relations, diplomatic relations with Saudi Arabia, since it seems that we have some complex financial arrangements in the billions of dollars. I need to remind everybody that 1 billion is followed by 9 zeros, so 1 billion equals 8,000 million. So these are the macro level, gigantic arrangements. Trade, from what I know, supposedly it's about 15 billion worth in military apparel and things of that nature, more security and military apparel between Canada and Saudi Arabia. However, has the present government put enough pressure? It seems that hasn't been the case. International outcry, and it's an ongoing crisis. I'm guessing that we'll see where it goes. What do you think? What solutions? What can be done? I mean, it's a tragic death of a journalist. You know, what can be done? Second, want to again state, call for world peace and cessation of violence. As about 48 or 72 hours ago, we have learned that Russia and Ukraine have escalated tensions to the point that Ukraine is about, if they haven't yet, as of now, of course, about Eastern Standard Time, Montreal, Hawk Island, North America. It should be about 7:40, if they haven't yet declared martial law across a major part. So this is a major geopolitical development for Eastern Europe, at least, but also from worldwide. From my understanding, there has been a clash in the Crimean Peninsula. If you remember, 4 years ago or 3.5 years ago, more or less, Russia annexed Crimea. Crimea was a disputed island on the Black Sea, where you have Romania bordering the Black Sea, then you have Ukraine bordering the Black Sea, then you have Russia. Again, and down, of course, you have Georgia. What I'm talking about. And another interesting island, which it's interesting because it dates back in the Greek mythology. I'm just gonna interject something here. That supposedly was the Snake Island, supposedly where Achilles died or something like that, and supposedly where the Amazons, the famous uh, Amazons, the tribe of was like a women collective, a society run by women who were also militaristic and warlike. They were not pacifists, basically. And it's called Snake Island. Snakes. I think it's plural. Might be mistaken, might be Snake Island, but from what I remember, it's Insula Sherpilor. It's the Snake Islands. Plural. Anyway, could be. So that's a major development that I wanted to discuss, and I'm calling on both sides to chill the fuck out. You heard Dragon swear or a cup of coffee? Nah. What I say? What you say? What you heard something? Well, 4 little words, and could have used put a mother in before. Could have been better, no? Anyhow, cessation of hostilities, because definitely this situation can escalate. I mean, if Ukraine is gonna impose the martial law, there we're gonna find out what happened. Who it seems to be a clash between actually military forces, from my understanding. Again, at the present moment in time, there were no civilians involved. There were a few naval, that is, ships that were involved of a military nature, and that there were some casualties indeed on both sides, from what I understand, them. What I understood yesterday in the news. Again, we're gonna have to double check. Now, I'm gonna skip to a topic related to the trade war. I'm just gonna say that Donald Trump's decision to impose tariffs on Canada, that is Canadian aluminum and steel, was the worst financial decision by any US president in history as it pertains to an external ally. To an ally. Us, Canadians. The worst financial decision by any US president ever. And therefore I'm calling for, as you know, I'm challenging Trump to a boxing match on the Canadian-US border in a rink made of Canadian aluminum and steel, financed by him, only fair. Born with a silver spoon, inherited $18 million or so, more than $400 million, inherited it. So we should finance the rink to stand as testimony for North American Partnership for Prosperity, Security, and Peace. So the trade war, as we've seen the markets react few weeks, last week actually, they were pretty scary times. A few hundred points it went down, almost 3% almost of the total New York and even Asian markets, right? It was very volatile, very volatile. And part of that is the trade tariffs. Now, I'm gonna go specifically the trade on China, the tariffs on Chinese goods, right? Chinese goods. Trump imposed a first one 6 months ago, and just about 3 months ago, a second round. Right? That's 200 and something, 245 million, if I'm billion, that is not million, 245 billion. That is the total tax on the goods, imported goods. That's a huge number. Remember, remind you that 1 billion equals 1,000 million. 1 billion has 9 zeros. So that second round was recently. Of course, China, retaliated. But now, after the holidays, after the New Year's, there's a third round of tariffs, even more, that Trump is planning to impose on Chinese goods. This one's gonna be, from my understanding, even more than both of them. Perhaps not combined, but in a large measure. Up to 280 something or something, even 300 maybe billion. I'm gonna check the exact number. Right? Because that's what he said he'll do if China retaliates, and they did. Right? They put counter tariffs, tens of billions. So this is somewhere that is supposed to be the third set of tariffs on the total package of tariffs imposed on China by Trump. And this, of course, has to do with US-Chinese trade relations. But since the markets are so integrated, it reverberates across the world. Because the United States being the biggest market, biggest consumer, and paradoxically, China is the biggest producer of goods right now in the world, right? And US is the biggest consumer. So you have the biggest consumer. I think of this paradoxically, and paradoxically, providentially myself right now, as I'm learning and studying this. Living in not a dollar in my pocket. Oh wait, maybe, let me see if I can find a buck. Alright. Oh, I got one. This one was printed in 2009, when the financial crisis was at its worst, and actually my hours cut down by like 37%. So you got one. This was printed in 2009. The financial crisis was, its effect was the Great Recession. Some say we're still recovering from that. Let me see if I can find another one real quickly. I found one. There was a second one hiding beneath the lion. See? The second one, printed in 2006. 2006. I think this is the year that I bought this shirt. I've not worn it until October of this year. Started wearing it 12 years later. United Nations, we believe. says we believe here. It says UN Women's Guild. It was fair trade. UN Women's Guild. Who's gonna save us if not women? Women in power, better tomorrow. Women in power, better tomorrow. Women in power, better tomorrow. I got 3, 2 that is. Let me see if I can find another one. Got it. I knew I had it. The third one. This was also printed in 2009. See? I knew we had it here in the book. See, it was in my keyboard to study. And those who don't know, I'm a scholar. Judaism also. Rabbi, defender of Jewish civilization. And now I had it as a in the book as a sign. I was using it as a sign for the books. I was looking for it, but they changed the books doing the cleaning. Friday to cleaning for the weekend. Now everything looks messy in my room because, you know, I'm a poet, an artist. Side, you know, a bit messy sometimes, and creative. Side, so it was here, so I got it the third one. See, it was on the book usually like this. You had it, but it fell down when we took it earlier today. This morning, the book. So it was there underneath my keypad between the book here. I'm giving that book away, but I read it. So $3 richer than I think I thought I was poor. But anyways, $3. 2 printed in 2009, 1 printed in 2006. I bought this shirt from the United Nations headquarters in New York actually, but it was fair trade. It was UN Women's Guild to support women in the countries, you know, who have financial difficulties. Still beautiful. 12 years later, I just wore it. And of course, as you see, it's not just on it. It's not just women, but it's women and boys together, right? With a piece, like dancing photo. It's beautiful. My favorite. Huh? Not right now. 1 second, okay. 1 second, this is real life. Yo. What you need? You're welcome. Real life. This is of course unedited, unfiltered coffee with dragon, as all my videos are. Have not edited one of my videos at all. As you see, this is real life. Good friend and sister, oftentimes teacher, asked for some help as I was doing the video, so I had to go help a little bit move the stove top. So back to what we were saying, we are richer than we think, but nonetheless. So back to the economics. I said paradoxically that myself is living in a financially precarious situation at the moment, as a lot of people do, $10,000 in debt, which of course monthly interest is due $80, which a lot of people know can add up and can suck the wealth off of you. So again, I'm calling for a reduction, immediate reduction of interest on all credit cards by at least half, starting on 24th of December. 24th of December, I'm calling here. I'm gonna call it live on the net, so you have me on record. Calling for an immediate debt amnesty and a reduction of interest. And so, if Trump goes again to go with the third set, if you want, or third part, to impose the tariffs on China, China will retaliate 100%. There's no way that China will just, because that's what Trump thought, that China is not going to retaliate. They're not going to impose countermeasures. What's called in economics or financial professors call countervailing duties. That is to counter the tariffs, which they did. So now if Trump goes in after the New Year's in January, I believe 7th, if I'm not mistaken, I could be mistaken, but for sure 100% in January, the third set, he said he will impose. And this is bigger than the first one and the second one in terms of the total amount of tariffs. It's more than 285 billion. And like I said, paradoxically, right, you have the biggest market of consumers, the buyers, which is the United States of America, and the world's biggest producers, right, now, the present moment in time, back in 2018. And of course you have other players in the world economy. Canada is among the top 10, but it's a more balanced producing and consuming in Canada, but we have more natural resources, oil and stuff like that, hydro, timber. Anyway, digressing, back to China and the United States. But this, because the markets are interconnected, and the world economy really surrounds around these two nation states and political entities, whatever you want to call it, economies. We're economies. Economy of the United States, economy of China, right? The world, the other world economies, 156 or so of them, whatever, or a bit more, a bit less, revolve around China as the producer and the mass exporter, and the United States as the mass buyer and mass consumer. So you think about the paradox where Trump has put us in as a world economy, all of us together, the world. And then you got the trade war that will reverberate. So imposition of tariffs by the biggest market, the biggest consumer, right? And the biggest producer retaliates, right? So you kind of have a double jeopardy, if you want, a double plus negativity that can arise from this if it goes with the third one, if it goes ahead. As we've seen already, the markets have reacted adversely. It took medium to short term. It wasn't overnight, but it was a process, a negative process, and now we see with the losses of jobs, right? And it's not like the salaries in Canada, United States have magically increased so much. Very few, right? To keep up with inflation, maybe not even to keep up with inflation. Minimum wages have gone up relatively a bit. However, they haven't kept up with inflation. What is inflation basically? Without going into deep theorems of economics, is the losing of the purchasing power. What's that? You buy less eggs for your dollars. So these $3 buy me less eggs, less bread, less sausage. That is inflation over a period of time, right? Then a year ago, 3 years ago, 7 years ago, right? Basically. In a more aggregated form, right? Of course, there's nuance and there's detail to it, but in taking the macro to simplify it from a micro perspective, the individual, me and you, we, as individual producers, consumers, buyers and sellers. As buyers and sellers, right? And of course, the mass corporations have amassed capital and capital and capital. You know, so now we're going to be in a paradox, financial, economic, commercial paradox. If Trump's in February goes along, says we're going to impose the third set of tariffs, China will retaliate. Forget about it. There's no doubt. The China is here to stay, and we should work for peaceful, harmonious relations with the Sino civilization. And I refer to China as the Sino civilization, Sino. Sure, they have internal problems. I'm not going to discuss those cultural issues, the democratic issues, all that. But sure, they are, and perhaps next coffee, another time, question specifics. But to maintain and to not have it more war and conflict, that ultimately will affect the majority of the people. We should work together towards harmonious, peaceful relations with China, Sino civilization. Sino basically refers to China as a civilization. Yeah. Need my help? I'm coming. Be right back. Oh, yeah. Every once in a while. All right. Real life moving baskets. Anyways, so it's gonna be a paradoxical problem here, because like I've stated before, and we're not going to details, but just generally to look from a macro perspective, who are these tariffs going to influence at the end of the day, at the end of the week, in a month, 3 months from now, and who are influencing them now? It's not the millionaires. The millionaires can afford it, right? It's me, we, is the 99%, and not only of Canadians, Americans, Chinese as well. And now you have Chinese billionaires, also millionaires. You have a very wealthy plutocratic. Plutocratic basically means a rich oligarchical class of people. Plutocrats, in rich guys, right? So I have that paradox, because the goods, the services, goods mostly of China, will increase the price. And the average consumer, who depends on the Walmart's, me here, for example, Dollarama, the dollar store, whatever, it's gonna cost more. It's already seen some increases. 25 cents here, 50 cents here, but for people who are already in debt, struggling for a mortgage. My friend said, very smart guy, said the middle class is gone. Middle class is gone. Can that be? When did it happen? He said it started happening in the financial crisis. It started in late July 2007. And I got like, is that so? What do you think? I don't think that is entirely true. I think there's certainly growing economic, financial, commercial inequalities that we need to address radically. Real life. Let's erase the debt. Let's reduce interest. Reduce interest. Banking fees, all that. The banks are making big money, right? Stuff like that. Creative job, volunteering. People who are on welfare, myself, social assistance, should be compensated a little bit for volunteering, right? A little bit. A little more creative. Go into the system, right? Fund people. For example, my World Citizens Gym. Want people to work out every day an hour. Well, $25, whatever. Right? It goes in a bit wellness, fun wellness, alternatives, right? So back to the China-U.S. relations, the trade war that's reverberating internationally. A paradox, me here, universal spiritual teacher, international, multidisciplinary artist. LGBTQ world citizen. Betty, it's 8:08. You're welcome. And it could escalate out. So paradoxically, biggest market consumer, United States, biggest producer market. We're now in a trade war officially. That now we see little ramifications of it. Here and there and here and there. Now in January, if there's this, he goes along with a third set of imposition of tariffs. China will retaliate and it's going to be a mess. It can bring the markets down. It can bring the stock market down. It could create a 3-day prolonged big drop, and that will create a financial panic. And it could be a global financial collapse, and we can go again into a great recession, if not a depression. Economically. It's billions of dollars. Now, myself, world citizen, spiritual teacher, artist, can't predict 100%, but from what we learn, discern, as we can see, the trend, the debt, so much debt, right? Coffee with Dragon, ladies and gentlemen. A little bit of financial discussions. Paradoxically, struggling with debt, unemployed. Calling for a global financial reset, minimizing interest, world peace, security,